In 2022, John Smith and myself did a Q&A via Zoom call regarding the Maura case that was suggested by one of the Facebook groups. This was our first time using Zoom for a Q&A, and we still had some things to learn about the chroma key green screen backgrounds and having callers eliminate their background noises. But nonetheless, it's a great interview. Sit back and enjoy this multi-part series. You wanted the best, you got the best. The hottest podcast in the world, True Crime Monkey!
So can I ask another question? I'm sorry.
No, you're at your limit. I'm sorry.
You're so good.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
I just have another question about, so all her bags were packed in her hotel room, in her college hotel room. Did anybody find a reason why that was there or what? Or
Say
did
that again
somebody?
about her bags being packed in the hotel room?
Yeah, like all her bags are packed and.
Or do you mean dorm?
I don't know
I mean
anything
dorm.
about her
I'm
bags being
sorry.
packed at
I
the
mean
hotel
dorm.
room.
I'm sorry.
Dorm room, yeah.
Yes,
Yeah,
her dorm.
as far as the dorm room goes,
That was kind of weird.
there's two schools of thought on this. One is that her stuff was packed up, or number two, that it was never unpacked. She had only been back to school for approximately maybe 2 weeks at the time. And UMass has a long winter break. And from what I understand, they do make you pack up your dorm room, leave so they can come in and do the proper cleaning and everything they need to do over the course of that break. So we really don't know whether her stuff was packed up or it was just never unpacked. I personally think it was never unpacked.
Interesting.
What is your opinion on why the VICAP is worded so weird and doesn't even mention the last person that supposedly did see her?
Go ahead, John. This one is you.
Well, I think it's pretty strange, definitely. I think what is very odd is that, you know, a few years ago now, I started a petition to get the FBI involved in this case, something that Fred Murray had been asking for 15 years. And so I started the petition and I got 37,000 signatures. And I sent it to the FBI a half a dozen times at least, with no response from the FBI, not even acknowledgement. And that's what I said. You know, I called a couple of times and I just want some freaking acknowledgement that you've received the petition. Just tell me you're not going to do anything about it, but don't ignore me, you know.
Right.
And I was ignored. I never ever heard from the FBI about the petition. But I think it's very telling that now the FBI is involved, in the way that they're wording this VICAP thing is odd to me, because I believe it makes me believe that they have come up with some more information and that they've changed the focus of the case. That's what I think. And I hope that I'm right. I hope that I am 100% spot on here, that they are chasing down a new lead and that they feel that they're closer than ever. And I hope so. I hope that is the case, because
I hope so too.
you know, the Murray family deserves answers and, you know, closure, and the person behind this, it needs to be found and, you know, dealt with properly. And, you know, that's the main focus of anything that should happen in this case right now. That is what should be being focused on, is trying to help the Murray family and, you know, focus on what they want to be focusing on. And that's to find out what happened to Maura.
Totally agree.
Yes, of course.
May I ask another one, Jeff and
Oh,
John?
he's good.
Sure.
So are you up to speed with, I know that I'm not the first person to notice this. This was a blog post that Aaron Larkin made a long time ago, suggesting that Butch had changed his stories. I mean, so we know that John Healy thinks that Butch changed this story about the interaction at the Saturn. He tells James Renner that. Renner puts that in his book in the Private Eyes chapter. So there's one instance. And we have this other instance where Larkin pointed out that in multiple occasions, Butch says she didn't appear to be intoxicated. Now, the police have always said that a witness told them she did appear to be intoxicated. Okay, so you have Butch saying didn't appear to on the in interviews, and you have the police saying there was said that she was intoxicated. So it makes us think, oh, there must be another witness we don't know of. Who's this person that said she was intoxicated? Well, years later, in 2016, we have Cecil Smith tell us that actually it was Butch Atwood who said Maura was drunk. And he kind of showed us how she, supposedly positioned herself on the car and was kind of sloping over. And that's, so we learned years later that the witness that said Maura was drunk, according to Cecil Smith, was, after all, Butch Atwood. So when you have those two changes, doesn't it seem a little bit possible, now that they're not mentioning Butch in this FBI VICAP, do you think that Butch is a little bit more of a, special witness than the police are trying to let on? Like, do you think that there was some interaction there? And the reason I ask is because if they're using Atwood's statements about the alcohol, like her being intoxicated, wouldn't they be using Atwood's statements about her jacket color? Because he's supposedly the last person to see her, and somewhere they got a black jacket, or we can obviously see it's white in the ATM footage. So doesn't it seem consistent with Butch's lies that he may have just sprinkled that in there and they just trust him maybe way more than they should? Or is that just way off to you?
I think you're probably dead on. I think it's very possible that I think there's new eyes looking at the case, first of all, especially with the VICAP, and I think there's some new people. My guess is they've looked at this, they've looked at the whole case file and said, hey, this Butch Atwood guy is unreliable. We can't base facts upon someone who's changed their story 3 times. That would be just my own personal guess. I don't know. I don't think it's a case of they're not putting him because of his involvement, be it if he did or did not. But I do think it's because of his lack of consistency with the statements. As far as your witnesses go, there was another witness that people don't talk about very much who drove by and said that they thought they saw 2 other witnesses. They didn't say male, female, whoever the case may be. They're with police. My guess it's the Westmans, at least one of them. They claim they never went out. They claim they never went out of the house. I don't buy it.
So you're saying maybe the Westmans, like the black jacket, could have come from the Westmans, I guess.
I think it's possibly, because I do believe the Westmans were out there, but as far as the black jacket coming from them, I don't know if that would have or not. Really not certain, but I do think the Westmans saw someone at the car. I don't think it's absolutely impossible to be that close. Claim you saw it and see the car there, and enough so to say, hey, she hit a tree, but yet you don't see the occupants. I don't buy it. I don't think they're being completely honest.
Yeah, that's fair. The black jacket could have come from the Westmans. All right, fair. Thank you.
Another thing that I was just thinking about now that you guys are mentioning this, so with the black and white jacket that we see at the ATM photo, from the ATM photos, and then Butch Atwood giving the description of a black jacket to the police. So Butch Atwood could have been lying about what color the coat was to keep them from finding Maura for some reason. But also, is it possible that the flurry of activity at the trunk, was the flurry of activity, and I can't remember this right this second, was the flurry of activity at the trunk before or after Butch Atwood went by in his bus? Because what I'm thinking is that if the flurry of activity was before he went by in the bus, was she dressing warmer for the walk? Did she put on the black coat? Did she have a black coat in the trunk or in the back seat? I'm not saying in the trunk per se, but could it have been that she had another warmer coat that she was putting on the top of that because she was going to be walking to try and get, further away from the scene?
That's really interesting. I mean,
Very good possibility.
yeah, that's really interesting. I've always thought that the flurry of activity at the back of the truck or car was her looking for the rag that her dad said was in the back of the car and putting that in the tailpipe quickly, hoping that police would come by, see, oh, this person's coming back. This is actually something Schmoosey said on Twitter that just resonated with me, is there's some kind of old school method of hanging a cloth off of like a mirror or, your windshield wiper or your car, or your, somewhere on your car that says, this person just went for a walk to the gas station, we'll be right back. And so I've always kind of thought, that's just maybe Maura quickly, once she sees that Cecil's coming from the west, throws that in there and decides, okay, maybe this will deter him. Maybe he'll take off. It just felt right to me. And then if Butch is able to lie about his interaction with her at the car, whether she was drinking, possibly what she was wearing, I see no reason for him not to throw in another lie here or there. Like, it doesn't, he's also a guy who lied about being an ex-cop to an investigator asking him questions. So I just really feel there's something strong going on there. And this whole FBI thing now, it makes me feel like Butch is like the cop's guy. Like, when you add in that he called 911 after Cecil was on scene, and then Cecil went directly to Butch's bus, and we've never really got that interaction. What did they talk about there? Something Butch said to Cecil made Cecil think, okay, you go look for Maura, you big guy who can't give her CPR should she need it, and definitely can't chase her on foot and can't apprehend her because he's got no authority. He's going to go look for Maura, but the EMS is going to stay. Something happened in that conversation between Cecil and Butch, in my opinion.
And keep recalling that according to Cecil, he didn't know Butch.
Yeah, and then Butch seems to have been under some impression that if the Murrays went over to Cecil, he was going to just tell him everything. Oh, they'll open the file for you or whatever. And Cecil said, no, I don't really know that guy.
There's a girl missing, and let me go down the street to this guy who drove by. She's missing now, who I've never met before. Why don't you go search for her? Makes absolutely zero sense.
Now,
It's
do you
the
think it's
glaring
odd?
problem.
Oh, go ahead.
No, sorry, go ahead. That's it.
No, I was going to say, do you think it was odd that they keep on talking about the tow truck, and that they might have kind of staged it, and why they took it to the private tow truck instead of to the police pound?
John, you want to handle that one?
Anybody can answer?
Well, I find the whole thing of the whole tow truck thing that evening to be bizarre in itself. Dick McKean, Northland Towing, was supposed to be called, and he wasn't. Instead, Mike Lavoie was called and went to the scene. And of course, Dick McKean was pissed because he was losing $100. So he drove to the scene in his own vehicle and met up and had a discussion at the scene with Mike Lavoie and was arguing about why he got the call. Again, I'll go back to the Oxygen documentary and Mike Lavoie's interview with them. And the one thing that he said 3 times that troubled me so much was, I don't know, I was home sleeping on the couch. I don't know, I was home sleeping on the couch. And it certainly seemed odd to me, because the minute he got the call, he knows he's not on call. I mean, when you're on call and when you're not, because you think, oh shit, I can have 5 beers right now because I know I don't have to go out on a call. So the nights that you've got to go out on a call. And he should have said, it's not my call. Did you try to call Dick McKean and he can't go? Is that why you're calling me? None of that was ever asked or explained or anything. He just said, I got the call and I went. So, and when Jeff and I interviewed him, This is another thing that stands out as another lie by the police that doesn't make any sense, another inaccuracy, inconsistency. Basically, what I call an outright lie is that Cecil said that, you know, they did not get into the vehicle that night until the next day when they got a warrant. And we know that witness
See.
Champy said that when she went by, she saw the passenger side door open with a police officer standing there and two bystanders. We do not know who the bystanders were, but the car door was open. Now, we had to believe that from Susan Champy, okay, because she's the only person that said that. But then when we interviewed Mike Lavoie said, when I got there, the car door was open. All right. And then from Abby Kennedy, one of the first fire department first responders herself, said, and not only told me, but said this out on Facebook in public, that Cecil had them pop the trunk that night. So they were in the vehicle at the scene that night, but yet they lied about that. And then, like you said, and another important thing that I think people should realize is Cecil Smith told John Monahan, who arrived before the car was moved, he told him that, oh, she's been pouring wine into a bottle out of this box and drinking it out of that. Now, how could he tell John Monahan that if he hadn't found the bottle underneath the car yet, which we know it's stated that once the vehicle was moved, they found the soda bottle under the car. So it's just another inconsistency in this whole thing. And then boom, the car ends up going to the private garage of
Right.
for, well, at least 5 days it was there, because the state police viewed the vehicle on Wednesday, the 11th. And actually, Mike Lavoie, I believe, said they started the vehicle that day. Am I correct, Jeff?
I was thinking it was Friday the 13th.
No, that's when Fred Murray did.
Fred saw it on Friday the 13th.
Yeah,
That's
and
correct.
Fred Murray saw it on the 13th with Billy Roush, and they went there, and they went there with the police. And this is the interesting part is, so Mike Lavoie says that the state police had him start the vehicle for them on Wednesday. How could they start the vehicle if they didn't have the keys? All right. Second of all, they would have had to take the rag out of the tailpipe to start the vehicle. Now, when Fred Murray saw the vehicle on Friday the 13th, he said, oh, will the car start? And they go, well, we don't know, which is a lie. And Fred retrieved the key from the hide key, whatever you call it, on the body of the car. And he went to go in to get in the car to start the car. And they said, oh, before you do that, you're going to have to take the rag from the tailpipe. Now, first of all, if they'd already taken the rag out, why would you put it back in? Second of all, the rag should have, from minute one, should have been claimed as evidence. Whether at the scene you take and you put a plastic bag over that and you tie a rag around it so that it's not getting any more contaminated, and you take that into evidence. It was not. And it was treated as nothing, and Fred Murray put his hands on it on Friday the 13th and pulled it out.
It's very interesting. Yes.
Let me throw one other thing in there about the towing as well. A lot of people hear the word rotation and incorrectly assume that you take this one, I'll take the next one, and we'll take one at a time. That is not how it works. The tow drivers are on a either weekly, bi-weekly, monthly, could be. But the Haverhill police had no problem calling Dick McKean on that same day, earlier Monday at around 4:30, when a police vehicle slid off the road, and Dick McKean had to come get it. When you're on a contract with the police, you're paid X amount of dollars per month, per year, whatever the case may be. And if you do one tow or 1,000, you're getting paid the same amount. That's why Dick McKean was so upset that he didn't get the call for Maura's car that night, because that's a private car. He would have gotten the $100 or so for that tow. And that went to Mike Lavoie. Dick McKean was on rotation for that time period. He should have absolutely gotten that call, because they called him earlier the same day.
3 hours.
So Yeah, just a few hours ago. Yeah, less than 4 hours ago. So it makes absolutely no sense whatsoever. And even when John mentioned it there on the Oxygen show, Michael Boy said, I was home asleep. I was home asleep. I was home asleep. Strangely enough, when we talked to him, we heard the exact same thing 3 times in a row, I believe it was. So it
That's
sounded a bit rehearsed. I will say Michael Boy was very open to talking to us. I remember John and I pulling up to the place going, he's not going to talk to us. He's not going to talk to us. So I even said to John, I said, he's going to know you. He's not going to know me. So let me talk to him. I started talking to him. John started talking to him. He freely talked to both of us and gave us probably, 15 minutes of his time, and he didn't have to. So I will give him credit for that. But I do think there's more to that story of why he was the one called instead of Dick McKean.
interesting.
So another question to John. So I kind of think that she was heading to a party in UMass cabin. Do you think that's really where she was heading, or do you have a destination where she was going?
I don't think that she was headed to the UMass cabin. It's remote. You have to walk in. In the winter, it's icy. There's like board walkways, like two planks that are side by side, and they're like 8 foot long, and you walk across those or whatever. And then, but in the middle of the winter up here, there could be 1 or 2 feet of snow. And then people are, not saying that people don't go up to the cabin, because the day that I went up with Tim and Lance, and we did a podcast about that, we actually found the caretaker there and a friend of his that were, bringing firewood and doing whatever they do. But it's remote. There's no electricity. You have to, it's heated by fire, by wood fire. And unless, and we know now, because we checked into the records of the camp, that no one was registered to be there that weekend. So it doesn't make sense to me that unless somebody was already there having a party and said, come on up, we're having a party up here, and it's cool, it's out in the middle of the woods, possibly. But I find it to be highly unlikely.
Okay.
Where she was going,
Yeah.
Again, if she didn't get off the wrong exit by, she might have gotten off the wrong exit, got off exit 17, which is Route 302 and takes you into Wells River and Haverhill. And maybe she was supposed to get off an exit further down the road, or further south, or further north on 93, or perhaps take, because she did have directions to Burlington, get on Route 89 and White River Junction and head, north to Burlington. But I would not dare say, because we know she called about Bartlett too, and the condo. So to have a precise idea, I couldn't say. But I think that if she was driving through Haverhill for a reason, and she wasn't trying to make it to Route 112, then she was looking for a destination in Haverhill of someone that she knew, maybe from college, or had been invited to a party or something like that. And Mountain Lakes, which is 1.5 miles away, is there's, I can't even know how many houses are in there, but 90% of them are all either Airbnbs or owned by people from Massachusetts, Rhode Island, Connecticut, New York. And investigating the case, every time I would drive through Mountain Lakes, I would just see all these out-of-state vehicles everywhere.
Yeah.
So,
And the A-frame that you hear about is located in Mountain Lakes as well, just
yes.
as a
Yeah.
side note.
So I've been there to the A-frame, and then I'm gonna tell you that there's a difference between, I know that there was she like looked in Airbnbs or motels in Burlington, Vermont. And that's like 30 minutes from me. And New Hampshire is like 30 minutes from me. So I'm like in between both of everything. So it's kind of like where she was going is kind of like that was like where I was wondering where that was going. But we have been down to Haverhill where she actually went missing, and it just seems kind of weird that she would have gotten lost that way, because she could have gotten on the Kangamegas highway right there, but not really. She went the other way. So it's kind of like just it seems like she knew where she was going. That's what my point is.
Yeah, if she took a wrong turn and headed east instead of west, she went an awfully long way east without realizing she had made a wrong turn if she was headed toward Burlington or somewhere. Yeah. But,
Yeah.
Yeah, I
guys, we are going to take a couple more questions, and then we're going to move on to another topic that we want to handle tonight. If you guys do like this format and you want to do it again, just let me know. And we'd be more than happy to do it again, I think. And so let's go ahead and take a couple more questions, and then we'll move on to the next topic that we wanted to cover tonight. We'll end this here in about 15 minutes or so.
One more question. Do you think, oh, go ahead.
This is Sue.
Go ahead, Sue.
Question I have, what's your thought on the 20 minutes of law enforcement chatter?
During what time, speaking of, between the accident time and?
The night of February 9th. What's your thought on the law enforcement? It was like 20 minutes of chatter. It's not really talked about.
With John or myself? With John, go ahead and you give your point on that one. It's probably going to be about the same.
Oh, here I am again.
Hi, John.
Sorry, I got lost. I lost the picture here for a minute. What we're talking about, Julie saying something about 20 minutes of chatter.
The 20 minutes of chatter that's lost and redacted from the logs, and
yes,
no one seems to know what they're talking about on that one, or what the law enforcement was talking about.
Right. I think if you look at the police logs or whatever, at the dispatch logs, we have 3 different copies. Well, should I say, we have 3 different copies, and there are 3 different versions within 3 different copies. And it all surrounds the time of Maura, or the Saturn being found at the weathered barn corner. And there's specifically in one of the ones, the first copies the Murrays received was just 1 page. It might be page 19, I can't remember. But that was the first page that they ever received. And it was during the time that Maura's accident happened. And before the call about Maura's accident, there was an hour and 27 minutes, I believe, missing. Like there was a blank space, and there was an hour, 27 minutes of nothing in there. Mm-hmm. And even we know that even Art and Maggie in the Oxygen documentary, thank you very much for doing this, guys, but they're the ones who have claimed that Maura could have been in Haverhill, New Hampshire an hour earlier than the 7:30 timeframe, that she could have been in Haverhill by 6:30, 6:45. So that's another thing that we have to look at, because I feel that there's a possibility that there was a separate incident from the weathered barn, or very close to there. And maybe that I know that there's been a lot of discussion lately that the car was where it was found right across from the Westmans, and then that some people have said that it was down in front of Butch Atwood's house by Bradley Hill Road. And maybe that's the whole thing of, the moving of the vehicle and left in the private vehicle. And I believe it was Faith Westman who said that we were one of 3 911 calls that evening. So that makes it that someone else called 911 on that night about this call, about this accident. And there was also, I believe, a statement by police in the media that said that they had spoken to a witness who saw Maura, and she asked them to call a tow truck. And I believe, if I'm remembering that exactly correctly, but I could be distorted a little bit, but I'm pretty sure that I have that pretty much spot on.
Okay, thanks for the answer.
You're welcome.
All right, guys, let's do one more question and then we'll move on to our next topic.
What about the possibility of not leaving Amherst?
I think that is definitely a possibility. Obviously, since there's no definite sighting, if we're to believe anything Butch says, if you take Butch out of the equation, then the last time she was seen in Amherst was the ATM or the liquor store.
What about the dorm mate? John, have you ever looked into the dorm mate who's the only person who saw Maura on Monday?
You're speaking of the dorm mate with the carrying the bag, or the different one?
Yes, the duffel bag, who spoke to the Boston Globe, who spoke to Billy Roush. How does that person keep on showing up? I mean, did Billy ask to speak to them? Do they work for security? I don't know. Who's the dorm mate? I wrote to the Boston Globe in the day and they didn't answer. I don't know how else to know. But
Yeah, I've never heard that person mentioned by name. I am
No,
familiar
no.
with the person.
Never by name. The time has changed from 2:30 originally to 4:30, and then someone else said on Sunday. Christopher Peak, I think, said 4:30, and I think somebody else said Sunday, but it was Monday at 2:30. Leaving the campus and allegedly heading towards the parking lot. That was in the Boston Globe.
Yeah. I have no idea who the person is. We've never been told who it is. I do not believe that the Murray family has been ever told that information. And I don't think it might matter, but it might not. I mean,
I think it matters a lot.
Yeah.
It's the only person who saw Maura.
well, yeah, I mean, but is it, I mean, it would still prove that she was still alive at 2:30 in the afternoon on Monday.
And they would tell you what she was wearing.
Yeah, right. But of course, the police said that they have identified that person and they have spoken to him. We, of course, don't know what they were told. But I think another thing that we should mention, because it's just kind of another strange thing, is a phone call that Maura made to a dorm phone number or something. And we could never figure out who it was. It was made to someone in the dorm, but we never knew who it was. And when the police were confronted about this, they said, "Oh, well, we checked that person out," and they've moved along.
That was the call at 0050 on Thursday.
Did we ever have that actual phone number, John?
No.
What's that?
Did we ever have the actual phone number to that dorm?
No, because I believe it goes into a central like switching number or something.
Yeah. Sorry to say, because I know I have it, I'm pretty sure you have it as well. There's a listing of all the student dorm numbers.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, because I have that directory on my blog, the UMass directory.
Yeah.
And
Where I've seen
if
that.
you were to be ambitious enough, because it's thousands of people, of course, if you wanted to go through and find everyone that was in, she was in Kennedy, right?
Kennedy, yep.
If everybody that was in Kennedy at that point in time, I believe that's how it worked, was that number went to like the Kennedy section or whatever. And then the other one, blah, 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 the other.
Yeah, and then that could be absolutely nothing. It could have been her trying to call Aaron to return her scrubs. You never know.
I mean,
Well, they weren't scrubs, they were an outfit, and the FBI checked it out.
yes, they were clothes, not us.
And Darren Roush is the one who gave us the information. And it's, anyway, it was on the security phone that Maura answered.
Another video
The desk
security that
phone.
we should have to have, but I would like to see when she picked up the accident forms. She had to do that in an official building. I'd love to see those.
Absolutely.
When were those picked up? Because we're all under the
Or-
assumption that she picked them up on our way out. So I don't
The
know.
other thing, she could have printed them.
Yep, possible.
Yeah, we checked that out at the time.
All right, guys,
So-
let's wrap up this section of the questions.
Great, thank you very much.
Thank you all for attending.